When you're the President of the United States, you deal with a constant barrage of threats on your life, and your family's lives. President Trump seems to have gotten even more than the average dose because of the divided feelings across the nation. While the president's supporters are louder and more supportive than those for any president in recent history, his adversaries have risen to the challenge. The mobs and death threats never seem to come to an end, and with such a large extended family, the president has to be constantly on alert. Because President Trump has so many businesses around the country, the targets are plentiful, and the never-Trumpers are more than willing to do anything for negative attention, in some cases even harming those who are innocent bystanders. President Trump is dealing with this issue today since police apprehended a suspect that caused multiple injuries right outside his D.C. hotel. This is being called assault with a deadly weapon, and considering the location, it's a chilling reminder of what people are willing to do to damage the president or anything associated with him. Whether you like that President Trump is in office or not, we as Americans are bound to respect the office as long as it follows the law. The mainstream media is trying to paint him as a green-eyed monster in hopes that the people will do the liberals' dirty work and evict him from office, but thus far he's been well within his rights in everything he's done. The president isn't willing to back down to anyone on either side of the aisle, and that could be considered a good quality or a bad one. That makes President Trump an incredible political issue in Washington, since an outsider like him in office hasn't been seen in years. The game that politicians have been playing for decades depended on a president having either a political past to point to and exploit, or a desire for approval and a political future that could be jeopardized by angering the wrong people. President Trump has none of that, and he's essentially a free agent, answering only to the American people. Watch now. More. Related. Breaking News 24. It's happening. First anti-Trump liberal celeb moves out of US. But look where they moved to. Most of us completely ignored the political affiliation of singers and actors before President Trump. Now actors, singers, businessmen and everyone in between are required to take sides, and for the record, they might give you two options, but there's only one right answer. If you've been waiting with bated breath to see which liberals would actually follow through and leave the country, we have good news. The first out-left never-Trumper Madonna is the first to make an exit. On Saturday, Madonna treated her fans to three major announcements between two posts on Instagram. What's to come? On Saturday, Madonna, 59, treated her fans to three major announcements between two posts on Instagram. The first photo was a drawing of a person standing on two tree stumps, legs spread over a boat in the ocean. In another snap, the Vogue singer showcased a kitchen filled with multiple hanging baskets. Reason? A spokesperson for the singer told the AP that the singer said she fell in love with the country after ending a tour there in 2004. Reason? A spokesperson for the singer told the AP that the singer said she fell in love with the country after ending a tour there in 2004. A spokesperson for the singer told the AP that the singer said she fell in love with the country after ending a tour there in 2004. As for the movie the star is directing, it's called Loved. In a previous interview with Harper's Bazaar, the singer shared why she decided to be a part of the movie. Making movies. As for the movie the star is directing, it's called Loved. Madonna is one of many liberal icons who said that they'd leave the country if President Trump was elected, but here we are, 9 months into his presidency, and stars like Rosie O'Donnell and Whoopi Goldberg are still toting their American passports and tormenting Americans with their anti-Trump rhetoric. Perhaps they'll all take note of their buddy Madonna and make a graceful exit before they do any more damage to our already divided country. Madonna may not have intended to make this a great thing for anyone other than herself, but conservatives everywhere are bound to take heart that the president is indeed making America great again, just by who he's running off. So we say bon voyage to the pop singer who hates America, and may she invite many of her liberal friends to come visit and maybe even keep them there indefinitely. Watch now. More. Related. Breaking News 24. Huge US biz just became first to require microchip implants in every employee. Do you support it? These implants go in the hand and make it easier to get through doors and other security checkpoints that would typically require some sort of ID or card. The fun part comes in where they promise that these chips aren't in any way GPS enabled and can't be used to read information, only hold information that you might need to use, like using multiple magnetic strips with the swipe of a hand. The company offers to implant its workers and startup members with microchips the size of grains of rice that function as swipe cards, to open doors, operate printers or buy smoothies with a wave of the hand. Although the chips are biologically safe, the data they generate can show how often employees come to work or what they buy. Unlike company swipe cards or smartphones, which can generate the same data, people cannot easily separate themselves from the chips. That's a way more serious thing than having a small chip that can actually communicate with devices. Epicenter, which is home to more than 100 companies and roughly 2,000 workers, began implanting workers in January 2015. A company based in Belgium also offers its employees such implants, and there are isolated cases around the world in which tech enthusiasts have tried them out in recent years. Conceptually, you could get data about your health, you could get data about your whereabouts, how often you're working, how long you're working, if you're taking toilet breaks and things like that. People ask me, are you chipped? And I say, yes, why not? Said Frederick Cageser, the 47-year-old chief experience officer at Epicenter. Epicenter workers stage monthly events where attendees can receive the implant. Sandra Hagliff, 25, who works for Eventomatic, an events company that works with Epicenter, has had 3 piercings before, and her left hand barely shakes as Osterlund injects the chip. You might think that it's just not possible that they require things like this of us, but if you'll recall, things like driver's licenses and social security numbers weren't required at one time, but it's basically impossible to function without them now. Watch now. More. Related. Breaking News 24. Ohio cops refuse to back down to whiny Cleveland Browns players, smack team with karma instead. After a preseason full of disrespectful sideline antics with entitled players following in unemployable Colin Kaepernick's footsteps, we can only expect the anti-American kneeling to continue. The Cleveland Browns upped the protesting display when a surprising amount of players took a knee at once, sending a huge message to the fans and country that was not ignored. As we reported last week, during the first preseason Browns game, a group of ungrateful elitist millionaire NFL players pulled a Kaepernick and decided not to stand for the national anthem. The Cleveland Police Department, Fire Department, and DMS are now refusing to hold the American flag at the first Browns game this season after 12 players took a knee during the national anthem. This decision was made to show that they aren't going to allow players to disrespect real heroes in this country and our flag and expect to get away with it, too can play that game. He also added that anyone who decides to take part is merely condoning the actions of these anti-American football players. Police Union President Steve Loomis later added that if the ownership of the Browns and the NFL are going to allow that type of disrespect to happen, they can't then come to us begging for help with the flag and expect us to be there ready and willing. Cleveland Police, EMS unions refuse to hold flag at game after Browns players kneel. National anthem history and full verses, the Star-Spangled Banner, was ordered played at military and naval occasions by President Woodrow Wilson in 1916, but was not designated the national anthem by an act of Congress until 1931. Oh, say, does that Star-Spangled Banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave? On the shore, dimly seen through the mists of the deep, where the foe's haughty host in dread silence reposes, what is that which the breeze, or the towering steep, as it fitfully blows, half conceals, half discloses? Now it catches the gleam of the morning's first beam, in full glory reflected now shines in the stream, 'Tis the Star-Spangled Banner. O long may it wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. No refuge could save the hireling and slave from the terror of flight and the gloom of the grave, and the Star-Spangled Banner in triumph doth wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave. NFL GM's statement on Colin Kaepernick's disrespect. That's according to one NFL general manager who this week told Sporting News his team chose not to sign Kaepernick due to the issue of the QB being a distraction. It doesn't have to do with the protests. If it did, then teams would be cutting the players who are standing or kneeling during the anthem, the GM said, speaking on the condition of anonymity. I know our roster has players who have protested. That doesn't affect if we sign them. The only way this garbage will end is when the NFL loses enough viewers. Watch now. More. Related. Breaking News 24. Believe it or not, the Civil War didn't start because of slavery. There were many differences between the North and the South. Before the war started, Congress was represented by two groups, the North were Republicans and the South were Democrats. The South was plantation agricultural based that used slave labor. Banking. There was a difference between the North and the South regarding banking. In the South, which had little need for local banking services, there was little enthusiasm for such a proposal. The South required far fewer internal improvements than people in the Northwest, and they tended to view federal subsidies for such projects to be part of a deal between Western and Eastern interests that held no obvious gains for the South. The South needed low tariffs with Europe in order to sell their cotton and still make a profit. Hence the major economic division between the North and South was over tariffs. Yes, there were other differences between the North and South beside economics. The North agreed with the Founding Fathers that the Republic was perpetual, the South argued secession. The North wanted the states to be slave-free, whereas the South believed that idea interfered with their rights to own slaves which they considered to be property. The North wanted the states to be slave-free, whereas the South believed that idea interfered with their rights to own slaves which they considered to be property. Barely 1 month after the election, South Carolina seceded on December 20, 1860, and the Cotton States of Mississippi, Florida, Alabama, Georgia, Louisiana, and Texas followed suit, seceding in January and February 1861. The war began when the South bombarded Fort Sumter on April 12 to 13. Watch now. More. Related. Breaking News 24. Trump finds private letter Obama left in desk and just exposed his secret tucked inside it. As it's customary for each outgoing president to write to the incoming president, Barack Hussein Obama, left President Donald J. Trump a handwritten letter inside the first drawer of the Resolute desk. Let's contrast the last two letters, shall we? What President George W. Bush told President Obama: Dear Barack, congratulations on becoming our president. He just had to go into political issues and suggest that President Trump is an elitist rich guy who has no idea what being a normal person is like. Let's not forget the civics lesson he tries to give President Trump. The Truth Server report, Obama, Constitution won't let me force Congress to do what I want. We have a sitting president complaining about and denigrating the founding document of our nation. That's just the nature of being president, he said. We already know that Obama sees the Constitution as a charter of negative liberties that didn't address redistributive policies and social justice. We now find he thinks the U.S. Constitution as an impediment. The Constitution is a charter of negative liberties, says what the states can't do to you, says what the federal government can't do to you, but it doesn't say what the federal government or the state government must do on your behalf. The opinion relies on no Supreme Court decision and many conclusions are unsupported in law or the Constitution, Grassley said in a statement. He added later that the opinion flies in the face of more than 90 years of historical practice. We also heard from U.S. Supreme Court Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg whining to an Egyptian television audience that our Constitution is just too darn old, We have oldest written constitution still in force in the world. I would not look to the U.S. Constitution if I were drafting a constitution in the year 2012, Ginsburg said in the interview, which aired on January 30 on Al Hayat TV. Could it be, Your Honor and Mr. President, that our Constitution is the oldest because it is the best? We have a sitting president and a Supreme Court justice complaining about and denigrating the founding document of our nation. The connection between the two? Oh yeah, they are both liberals. Yes, a sitting president actually made a statement against the United States Constitution. The same Constitution he was sworn to protect and uphold. Unbelievable. If you actually take the time and read in between the lines of that awful note he left for President Trump, you can see all this points to protecting Obama's failed legacy.